Three, two, one, and go.
All right, Chad Brown here with the Tortured Man podcast. This is our preview to the Tortured Man podcast, the mancast, as it will be affectionately known. Today, we are going to be giving our Super Bowl predictions on this wonderful Super Bowl Sunday. It is about 2:41 p.m. Eastern Time, and we will be seaming this little spot into our first episode of the Mancast. Going forward here, we will do a response episode to the Super Bowl and a few other items, and this will be used as a little bit of fodder to see how close we were on our predictions and our reasoning behind this this wonderful game outcome here. So I'm going to throw it over to Ed. What do you got to say, buddy?
Hey, well, glad to be here. This is our first podcast, as you had mentioned. We are going to become enormously wealthy from doing this because we're just so fabulously interesting. So I am really looking forward to the game today. I think it's going to be amazing. Two best teams in the NFL. That's the way it's supposed to go down, and that's the way it's going down. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and give my prediction. But before I do, I'm going to preface it with one thing. I want to first start by giving my condolences to Tyreek Hill and his family. I'm very sorry for their loss. And my heart goes out to them because while Tyreek Hill is in warm, beautiful Miami with the palm trees and the beautiful ladies, and he got the giant bag of money, averaging what, 30 million a year, and all that jazz. He's chasing paper when the Chiefs are chasing rings, and he's going to be missing out on being a big, solid, ongoing part of the story that is the soon-to-be dynasty called the Kansas City Chiefs. In my humble opinion. That said, he's going to be, getting all the stat lines as he always will. He's still going to be the cheetah. He's still going to be, probably going to be a Hall of Famer and everything else. But, he's going to be making Pro Bowl appearances when the Chiefs are making Super Bowl appearances. And I think that burns. I think that burns his ass. That's just my opinion. But
what I find very interesting about Tyreek Hill leaving is all he did by leaving was A, watch the Super Bowl from home, and B, prove that Patrick Mahomes is the man and didn't need him to begin
with. Yeah, that used to be the story. It was like, oh, yeah, but could he do it without the crutch that he has, with Tyreek being the fastest guy in the league and all that? Well, yeah, I guess he can. But speaking, go ahead.
It's different. Look, Tyreek Hill would have hurt literally almost any team. And I don't care how great a quarterback you are. Aaron Rodgers lost Devontae Adams, and it was devastating to Green Bay. Pat Mahomes is so great that he loses arguably the best wide receiver in the AFC, and not a blip. Couldn't even tell. Same record they had the year before, playing even better, and they're in the Super Bowl again. And that's more to the greatness of Patrick Mahomes than it has anything to do to take away from how great Tyreek Hill is on his own merit. But Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, while both are great professional football players, one is far more superior in terms of how meaningful he is to his team than the other.
Fair point. I'm going to get to more on Pat in a moment. He will be one of my 3 points why I'm choosing this game outcome the way I'm choosing it. But the first point, I think, is the Chiefs' defense. I think that in typical fashion of the Steve Spagnuolo defense, it follows this trajectory where it gets a little bit of a rocky start and it just gets better and better as the season goes on. And that defense, they come alive in the playoffs, and they're just better than ever at that point. I just think that they've done nothing but get better, and I think they're going to be even better yet again, another step. I think guys like Nick Bolton and Frank Clark are going to do a good job of containing the RPO better than most against the Eagles because they're so deadly at it. And setting that edge and containing that and kind of funneling them into more of like a one-dimensional approach. I'm not the first person to say this, but I do think that's how it's going to go down. I think that's going to be the game plan. And with that being the case, if the Chiefs defense can stall them a little bit, the Chiefs offense is going to do what it does, which is put up points. And I think that's the way you drag. Well, I think that's the way you drag the Eagles into a more one-dimensional approach, which helps the Chiefs a lot.
We're pretty much on the same page there. I think if I was the Chiefs and I was their defensive coordinator, it's clear to me after Hurts got hurt, no pun intended, the way that he's playing is different. Like those first 13, 14 games before his injury, he was dominant. I mean, dominant. And if you had him in fantasy football, like smart people like me did, he was scoring more points in fantasy at the quarterback position than anyone because of his feet and how many touchdowns he was scoring with his feet. Since his injury, even though he's only played 3 games, his fantasy point average is only like 8 points a game. It's horrible. He's not the same player right now that he was. I do expect him to play as out of his mind as he possibly can. But if I was Spagnuolo, what I would do is I would run more of a Tampa 2. They have the edge rushers to create a lot of pressure. If they go Tampa 2 like a 4-2-5 look and use that nickel back more, the strong safety, bring them forward and allow them to spy in the middle of the field. The edge rushers can take care of Jalen Hurts' rush to the edge of the field and not give him that. If they force him up the center, then you got to spy. Then you can hit him. You can put a hurt on him, and they start smacking him around a little bit. Also, if they're in the Tampa 2, because you got to guard A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, that's not easy to do. So it takes pressure off the defense, allows them to flex back, and allows them to not have to blitz all the time. If they blitz on Hurts and they get caught, they could get burnt. But if they play that Tampa 2 and they bring bring the fifth man in coverage up to spy as opposed to blitz and keep on Hurts all day, I think you could hurt them, take advantage of that early on. But as the game wears on and he takes shots, it's going to be different. So I agree as far as that goes, that they can contain him. I think they have the edge rushers that they can keep him and force him, funnel him into the center of the field, not let him get outside, not let him create.
Yeah, I think your blitzes are going to come from your corners and safeties. I think that's the way Spags is going to set it up. I think he's going to make sure that your defensive ends are holding that edge. You know what I mean? Because you can't let Hurts get outside. He's going to burn you. So
agreed. And
yeah,
he has the talent to do it. The only problem when you're playing underneath, if they're going to play press coverage or they're going to play to lock receivers down to try to get it Hurts, that will allow Jalen some opportunities to use Sanders underneath. And if Sanders is in open space and he's past the first level of defense, he can burn your ass. So they have to be careful with that too. That's why I think keeping the spy up in on more of a Tampa kind of coverage helps them out a little bit.
Strong points. I'm going to go ahead and throw out this number 2 and see what you have to say about that. Second point of my calculus was we'll start by calling it Footlocker. Footlocker is a reference to a man named Travis Kelce who had a certain thing to say about a certain referee. The man's name is Carl Cheffers. Carl Cheffers is the head officiator of tonight's game, and he doesn't really like the Chiefs. That's borne out in the data.
Not to interrupt you, but I think they call him Chit for short.
Fair enough. I would call him the laundry man for short. This guy is the most flag-happy ref in the league. He's had more flags and more yards for penalties than any other ref this season. That's his typical MO. He's ref 2 games this season for the Chiefs already in the regular season, and they got almost a quarter of all their penalties in those 2 games. They got over 22% of all their penalties and penalty yards in those 2 games with this man reffing. So he likes to throw the laundry on the Chiefs. And like I said, Travis Kelce said a number of years ago that man wasn't even worthy of wearing a Foot Locker uniform, let alone a referee's uniform. I will say, as far as Foot Locker is concerned, they do expect certain things out of their employees. They expect that you show up on time. They expect that you're not too intoxicated. They expect that you do wear a shirt and that it's the right one, the one with the stripes on it. They also probably expect that you're not like a power hungry freak that runs around like, trying to fucking tattle on everybody every second either. But that's why Carl Cheffers can't work there. And he also shouldn't work in the NFL, but here he is. Nonetheless, I do not want to set this up for blaming the refs for a Chiefs loss if that happens to happen. I really hope that it's not, the story is not the refs. I would rather the Eagles far and away win, and it's no question, than have it be some sort of question as to whether or not the refs won it one way or another. I'm fucking hoping we avoid that at all costs.
So. Well, so you never want the referees, especially in the Super Bowl, to be a part of it. As far as this ref goes, I think you're a little overly harsh. I think he could easily sell sneakers at Foot Locker to people who are already there to buy sneakers. I think he could pull that off. As far as referees go, he's not really great. As we have discussed before, I think it is, well, just damaging to the game that they assemble a all-star team of referees that haven't worked together for the entire season and put them in the Super Bowl instead of the best officiating crew overall, which would certainly make the game less haphazard with terrible calls. And it also keeps these alleged all-star referees and umpires from trying to make the game about them to get their 15 minutes of fame while, worldwide, 500 million people are watching. So I just don't like the way that whole thing shakes out. I think, however, that I not worry too much about the referees. I don't ever go into a game assuming that the referees are going to be an issue. They have been and can be. I don't think that's, in my experience with the Super Bowl is I haven't seen anybody lose a game because of a flag in the Super Bowl. So I'm hoping that we don't have that issue here. So I'm not worried about that one too much. And if it's something really chippy or something really horrible to take a shot at Kelsey, it's going to be so obvious and the whole world's going to be watching. So hopefully
it'd be a bad look.
Yeah, hopefully he'll do better than that, because
a little more restraint than that.
Yeah, we'll see. So what's your third point?
All right, third point, and I'm going to bring Cheffers back into this when I make my actual number prediction, because there is something to do with that as well, real quick. But third and final point, and most important point in my opinion, and circling back to good old MV Patrick Mahomes, the baddest mofo ever slang a football, in my opinion. I think he's the number one point in the calculus. Why I'm going to end up choosing the Chiefs as the victor in this prediction. He's about to become one of the all-time greats before he's even 28. I mean, if he can win this game and somehow become and if he does, I predict if the Chiefs win this game, I predict it'll be because Pat Mahomes has an MVP style performance yet again, and that he's won the MVP Super Bowl, and that he's going to break that rarefied air that hasn't been broken since Kurt Warner, to have a Super Bowl MVP and a league MVP in the same season. With that said, as far as what I was going to say about the ref, and the reason why I will factor in Cheffers a little bit, but I'm also going to kind of ignore that logic, is that Vegas has chosen the game point total at 51 over and under, right? So 51 points seems a little low for these two offenses, but I think they realize how
they both average over 30 points a game.
I know, but I think they realize how amazing these defenses are too, and so forth. But I'm going to go ahead and say the total is 57. But before I say that, before I go any further with that, I will say this: that Carl Cheffers, in every postseason game he's ever refereed, 11 in the past 11 years, he's refereed postseason games, and in 11 games, 10 games went under, and only one went over. Because he throws so much fucking laundry that it's holding the score down. But anyway, that's one thing I kind of thought about, and maybe that's going into some calculus here. But nonetheless, I'm saying 57 points, and my prediction is that Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs win another Super Bowl. Patrick solidifies himself as one of the all-time greats. Chiefs 30, Eagles a monster, but they take the L at 27 points. Butker with the kick, walk off at the end for the win. Chiefs go. Woo!
Oh, man. That's very specific. All right. Now it's my turn. Okay, so we already discussed a little bit about Jalen Hurts and Eagles offense and what what the Kansas City defense will do. Along with the thing with Jalen Hurts for me is that Jalen's not playing the same level of football that he had been playing before. Now, Jalen throughout his career and particularly in college, he was unflappable. And he even changed schools, was unflappable. And I don't think that he's not going to hold back. He's going to risk everything, even if he's still injured, just like Mahomes is. So I think he'll push everything out. The difference is Mahomes running around on a bad wheel. This guy's throwing shoulder is what the issue is, and that's an entirely different thing altogether, throwing the ball. So, and Pat Mahomes is a better quarterback to begin with. Nothing against Jalen Hurts. He doesn't have the legacy behind it yet to say this is what I've already done. So we'll see as far as that goes. He's just not playing at the same level as he was previously, and I don't suspect that he's going to get to that level today. The other part with Jalen is, again, they have no control over their own schedule, but the gauntlet that you have to go through in the AFC compared to the NFC is an entirely different thing altogether. And the Chiefs, half of their games were against teams that made it to the playoffs. The Eagles cannot boast that. And the Eagles' best team that they played all year were the Cowboys. That's not saying much.
Who put up a pile of points on them?
So this
what was the score? Do you remember the score of that game? Didn't the Cowboys put up like 40 points?
Yeah.
It was really high, wasn't it?
Look it up. Look it up. Look it up. You look it up. I'm the one talking.
Yeah, look it up. What about the way back machine? You keep going, buddy. I'll look it
up. So although the Eagles offensively have an enormous amount of weapons, from Dallas to A.J. Brown to Smith. I mean, they're loaded on offense too. And Sanders is no joke. He's an all-pro running back, one of the best in the NFC, if not the entire NFL. So they're loaded on offense. And their offensive line is good. So they're going to create a lot of problems for the Chiefs. I think as the game wears on, however, Jalen's shoulder is going to get more and more sore. And what I was referring to earlier, they're going to put hits on him. The idea is to force him into a funnel, to force him, if he's going to take off, to not be able to escape to the outside, or at least not that easily. So he has to be turned upfield to take a shot. And those will add up as the game wears on. So I don't know that the Eagles offensively can keep up with the Chiefs, because Chiefs, my second point, there's a lot of things that people may or may not know about the Kansas City Chiefs. One of the things that is remarkable about them, and you can't replicate, is Kelsey and Mahomes have ESP, right? The way that they work together, it's unbelievable. It's very rare in football or in any sport. These guys read each other's minds and know what's up. Kelsey can't be covered because of that, because he's not running routes. He's running to safe areas for his quarterback instinctively, and Mahomes knows he's there. And here's the weird thing, people, even when he's not looking, it's incredible what he can do. What a lot of people might not know about Travis Kelsey is, in just a very short 4-year period of time, he has more receptions, more yards, and more touchdowns than not just any tight end, but anybody in playoff history, with the exception of Jerry Rice. That is the only guy ahead of him. He's only going to add a whole lot more to that today. And I think those two together, that's unbreakable. Pat's not going to be 100% because of his ankle. Kelsey's going to get him out of trouble over and over and over again, because that's what he does. He just can't. There's no way to quantify what they do with each other, because it's so rare. So just sit back and enjoy the show, because that's what's going to happen. Defensively, I think these teams are very equal. Go ahead.
I was just going to interject real quick as far as Pat's concerned, though, and that ankle. If you recall back a couple years ago when they played the Bucs in the Super Bowl, Pat was running around on a busted-ass turf toe that he had to have surgery the following week on. And he actually said that was way more painful and way more agonizing during the game than this ankle's been. That guy's a psycho. That guy's a psycho, man. His will to win is way bigger than a little injury.
Yeah. Well, we can't understand Pat Mahomes because we're not from the planet Krypton. He is. So he understands what we do. So the guy's amazing. And with Kelsey and the way that they work together, plus, look, Tyreek Hill's gone, but they can still stretch the field like crazy. They got guys that have speed to burn. And if everything underneath is working, and Kelsey is making them miserable and they're pulling up D-backs for him, we're going to have one-on-one situations, and he's just going to do what he does. He's going to chuck the ball downfield, and it's going to work from time to time. Right. Defensively, I think these teams are very equal. I think Philadelphia can put a lot of pressure, and they're going to bring it. I think they'll be apprehensive at first because they're going to want to grade what's happening, how Mahomes moves around, and then they'll probably start putting a little more pressure on him. But we have watched over and over and over again teams try to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes, and it doesn't work. And I don't see why it would be any different today than for anybody else. Cincinnati tried to put pressure on him too. Look how that worked out. It just doesn't quite work the same way with this guy. So I think that while defenses are very even here, I think the big difference in the game is Mahomes the better quarterback. I think they are equal, with the exception of Travis Kelsey. I think they're very equal in terms of the firepower that they have on offense on each side. I think the difference is going to be field position, and I think that the Eagles are going to be back on their heels, and I think Kansas City will get a lead, and when they do, they're going to put pressure on, and I think that pressure and a short field behind them, and they'll start to break down, and by the fourth quarter, Kansas City will take the game over, and my prediction is that they will win the game. Final score, 31-24, Kansas City.
I like the sound of that. I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. I'd like a little more space in that score so that I can be a little more comfortable at the end.
Yeah, I just the Eagles are no joke. If Hurts plays well, they'll do better. But how do you go against Pat Mahomes? I don't see it. He seems to be on a mission. Joe Burrow got so much love last year after he won, like he was the second coming. And Pat seemed to be pretty determined this year to get back and to win, to remind everybody exactly who the best quarterback in the NFL is. And he did that. He won another MVP. So I just think that this is the best player in football, period, right now. He may end up being that way, period, at the end of his career of all time. We'll see. But right now, you can't argue against this guy. So if I'm going to bet money, I'm going to bet on the quarterback I think has the most likely chance to win. And I don't care who you're playing or who the other quarterback is. If Pat Mahomes is in that game, my money is always going to be on Pat Mahomes. Now, you know me. You're my best friend. You're my brother, right? So you know how much I hate Tom Brady. I bet against Tom Brady because I disliked him. And I'm going to warn everybody out there who hates Patrick Mahomes, doesn't want to see him win, don't bet against him because it's a fool's errand. You're going to lose all your money.
Amen. I will say one more thing about sort of the Eagles and their opponents and the strength of schedule and all that jazz and how all that kind of factors in. I mean, again, you always have to preface it by saying the Eagles are no joke. They're a fucking beast. They're monsters, dude. But we've talked about the quarterbacks they faced. I did look, and that last game they played against the Cowboys was December 24th. It was Christmas Eve, and it was 40-33 or something like that. Dallas won. And, if Dallas was without 40.
That was out Hurts, though. Hurts didn't play.
That's true. That's true. And that makes a big difference. But if they can put that many points up on that defense, I know the Chiefs can put up 30, but with that said, let's think about this. So the Eagles, they beat the shit out of the 49ers in that championship game, but 49ers were on their fourth string quarterback. The Chiefs kind of freaking ragdolled the 49ers earlier this season too, and they weren't on their fourth string quarterback. I'm just saying that the Eagles have been mowing through everybody, but they're about to hit a wall. Sorry.
Well, yeah, but you beat beating Dallas means nothing to me because Dallas are the greatest pretenders to be a good team in the history of history. The 49ers, you can't quantify that game. I mean, and even if you want to talk about that game, how do you explain that the 49ers were still in that game towards the end of the third quarter before it got really ugly when they had only thrown 2 passes in the third quarter? And if they wouldn't have turned the ball over, they still wouldn't have won that game, but that game would have only probably been 10 points apart. Plus, the very first deep ball catch that was made in that game wasn't even a catch at all. So the first 7 points the Eagles got, they didn't even deserve it. It was handed to them. That was on 4th down, mind you. They went deep like that. And he dropped that ball. I mean, he literally dropped it. There's no two ways about it. So that touchdown, you can't say, well, they could have gone for it on 4th. It was 4th. They can. So that touchdown never would have happened. That game was way closer than people remember against a team who was already on their 3rd-string quarterback, went to their 4th-string quarterback, and he got taken out. And literally their emergency quarterback actually played from Wildcat and even threw a pass, and that's Christian McCaffrey. So I don't count the San Francisco game because the Eagles did not play San Francisco. The Eagles played a team that looked like San Francisco who had a Girl Scout from Troop 107 in Pennsylvania playing quarterback for them. It was a joke. So I can't give Eagles are in the Super Bowl. They deserve to be there. Don't get me wrong, but they didn't mow over San Francisco. San Francisco just couldn't stay in the game because they had nobody to help.
Yeah, I agree. So again, they're a monster, but
and the Giants were way overrated. Look, Daboll deserves Coach of the Year. He's done an amazing job. That team was 3-13 last year, and they won 10 games this year. Amazing. They deserve that credit. But they were never going to give the Eagles a real fight in the playoffs. They played them twice in the regular season, and as we saw how that worked out. So, and Daniel Jones, everybody was making it seem like because he beat Minnesota that he was the second coming for the Giants of Eli Manning. And as it turns out, or Phil Simms even, but as it turns out, it was because he played Minnesota. Minnesota was probably one of the biggest frauds in the NFL this year. So I'm not going to pretend that they didn't. If you look at the Eagles' overall schedule, they really didn't play the kind of schedule that Kansas City did. They didn't. And I looked at their schedule earlier in the year during the playoffs, actually, because of a mutual friend of ours who was being such a fanboy with San Francisco. It was driving me crazy. And we will leave James. We love you, James. But he was saying about, the Eagles' schedule is so easy. And so when I looked at the schedule, their schedule was literally identical in terms of wins and losses. They were both towards the bottom 25% of the NFL in terms of how difficult their schedule was. Whereas Kansas City's schedule, I could be wrong. I haven't checked this. But given their division and the gauntlet they have to go through in the AFC side and the fact that they had to play San Francisco, the Rams are defending Super Bowl champions, and those in the NFC, I'm going to go on a limb and say they probably had a top 10 schedule. So they're a little more battle-tested.
I think it ended up being in the middle of the road, like 15 or 16 when it was all borne out, when they looked at all the data from this whole previous season here, this current season, but all of the previous games. But yeah, the Eagles were towards the easiest. So there is some separation there. So,
and to be fair, if the Giants hadn't done as well and the Redskins, nobody in that division had a losing record. None of those teams can be called great by any stretch of the imagination. If you remove 2 games against Dallas, 2 games against the Redskins, 2 games against the Giants, who combined had a very good winning percentage. The Redskins the worst, but they were 8-1, so they were dead even, right? So if you remove those games, my guess is they'd have the worst schedule, the easiest schedule in the NFL. That would be my guess. So they're just not battle-tested. So we're going to see what they can do. They have all the firepower. Their defense is amazing. But there's one thing we haven't talked about. Andy Reid is a Hall of Fame coach. Nothing against the Eagles coach, whose name escapes me because nobody knows who he is. But Andy Reid's the man, right? And he used to coach the Eagles. But if you're going to tell me right now that
Nick Sirianni is a goofball, I will say that.
And I didn't know his name. I'm just poking fun at him.
I know.
But if you're going to tell me that the Eagles are going to out-scheme the Chiefs, I'm here to tell you you're crazy, because that is not going to happen. Not in any way, shape, or form. The only coach in the NFL that I can see out-scheming Andy Reid is Shanahan, because that guy's a genius on a level that's hard to explain, the way that he utilizes the passing game in a way that nobody else does. So it's hard to scheme, and that wouldn't even be Andy Reid so much as it would be Spagnuolo anyway.
Right. I'm trying to see here Andy Reid's legendary record after the bye. After 31 years in the NFL, 24 as a head coach, he is 27-4 after a bye week.
I want to say, for the record, for all our millions of fans that we will collect slowly, while he's looking up this amazing information about after the bye, here's some truth for you. In my entire lifetime, I have never lost a game after the bye that I've had. Ever. I'm undefeated.
Well, I'm not just talking about the bye in the midseason. I'm talking about any bye. So
I'm talking about any bye. I have never lost after a bye personally. I am undefeated.
Same. I mean, same. I'm always.
We never lose after the bye.
Currently undefeated during the bye week as well.
Correct.
So, well, all right, man. I mean, our little prediction was only supposed to be a little prediction. We're half an hour in here. I think we could do a whole episode pretty easy.
Everybody get ready, because this is nothing. Wait till you hear us get ginned up about many other topics. It's going to be fun. They'll be longer, and they'll be interactive. People will be able to get involved with us, and they'll be able to text us or message us while it's going on, and we can take questions, especially if you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, if you're stumbling through YouTube tonight and you stumble onto this and you think, oh, look at these two goofballs, yeah, like you think this is interesting, go ahead and subscribe and wait until next week when we launch our actual full cast and we look back on this and realize how either right or wrong we were.
To be fair,
if you catch this prior to that, by all means, please tune back in so you can make fun of us if we're wrong.
Well, as James would say, to be fair, to be fair, we're being very humble. This is the first one we ever did. If our predictions are correct, which they most likely will be, you're going to see entirely two different people when we are bragging about how awesome we are.
Woo! You thought shirtless Kirk Cousins with a bunch of ice on was something. You just wait.
I'm going full on Ric Flair. Woo!
Absolutely.
So
we're getting down.
It's going to be a blast. So everybody, please enjoy the game. Make note of everything. Watch how correct we actually are. And then for the rest of your lives, if you ever need to know what's going to happen in a football game, you can always check in with us.
Please like this. Please subscribe. Please share with your friends. And please leave a comment if you think we're way off. Or if you agree, either way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Leave a comment. Let us know what you're thinking.
We love people who agree with us, but we like people more who disagree with us.
Yeah, it's more fodder for fun.
That's right, for sure. So everybody enjoy their day. Tortured cool. Man's very first one. Get used to it. We're going to be around. Already got, wait, what's this? It's Joe Rogan. He said he's nervous.
Oh, it's a group text. Yeah, what the hell, Joe?
Yeah,
Shut up, dude. It's gonna be a while before we get close to you, buddy.
We're just gonna give us at least 90 days.
Wait until we start talking about the UFC, at least, you know.
So anyway, everybody enjoy the day, enjoy the game, and after the game is over, y'all will hear from us again, and we will tell you why we were right.
Woohoo! Chiefs win.
Podcast out.